Hello and welcome. In this video, I want to share with you some of my learnings of drawing portraits using Brushpen. I actually have been using them for quite some time now, probably starting last year, very regularly in my sketchbook. And I want to share with you what I've learned drawing portraits using them, what I like to use them for, and what I don't like to use them for. There are some things that I think Brushpen is really great for, and some styles of drawings that Brushpen isn't terribly great for. So yeah, hopefully you'll enjoy and learn a thing or two through my learnings and mistakes, tips and tricks that I'll share with you in this video. As you can see, I have a lot of different kinds of markers in the Brushpen category. Not every single one of them is colored. These are all black. And these are what I would consider in a color range. I think the most important thing in picking out what you use to draw is, are you having fun with it? And when you look at that material, do you want to pick it up and create something new with it? So, a lot of times I know for other people, they think about the end result and then they go out and they want to figure out what is going to achieve that end result. But for drawing, I think it has to be the opposite. It has to be, when you're drawing with that, are you having a great time? Are you having fun? When you're using it, does it make you happy? That is really important, because drawing is one of those things that if you're not having fun while doing it, then why are you doing it? I think that's true for artists as well, because it's not just a job for artists. I don't think artists do what they do for monetary reasons. Again, that's my opinion. The other thing is, talent is something that you're born with. Maybe for a very select few people, that is true. Like, they're just born with it. But I think for the mass majority of people, you have to practice. You have to want to draw. You have to want to continuously build up your skills as an artist. And in order to do that, you have to enjoy using the material at hand. And the material need to inspire you to keep on creating and keep using them as well. And the most important thing for that, to keep on that habit, to keep on doing that, is how enjoyable these tools bring you. So if you're using a tool that it just gives you, pain and suffering while you're doing it, and it makes you annoyed, it drives you mad, then it's probably not the right tool for you. That's probably not the right medium. You probably shouldn't be using it, and try something new. So yeah, important, really important. Are you having fun? So a couple months ago, my cousin reached out to me and she shared that, okay, I send your nephew to art lessons. This is a weekend program. He does enjoy drawing with pencils, but whenever they start drawing with color pencils, and he just struggles, and he takes so long to complete a tiny amount of portion. And I'm just not sure if he should continue drawing, because it takes him way too long and it feels like a struggle. And I look at all his drawings. They kept everything in a really nice portfolio. And he has the kid's got talent. He's got amazing pencil drawings. But it's just that when it comes to color studies, he admitted that he feels like he's not happy about it. And whenever he sits in these classes, it just feels like, oh my God, why am I doing this again? And I feel like, let the kid draw what the kid wants to draw. Use pencil, use graphite. Just do black and white. It's fine. Do what they enjoy drawing. I want to share with you a few tips of mine of using Brushpen to draw portraits. Now, first and foremost, if you are not comfortable directly using a brush pen and put it down on paper, I don't blame you. That can be very scary. And I didn't start off just, start using a brush pen directly on a piece of blank paper either. Like I mentioned, I did a whole book of brush pen drawings, and it's always, I lay down the pencil and then I go over the pencil with the brush pen. And there's obviously like pros and cons for either approach. It depends on what the final drawing you want to create is. But it also helps definitely to build your confidence if the pencil way is the way to go, right? Okay, so what are some of my tips? Figure out the boundaries, right? So for any portrait, the outer shape of the face, the shape of the hair is really important to capture as the first step, right? And you can see how I start off a few of these drawings. The first thing I always do is to figure out the shape, right? The shape of the face, the shape of the hair, the shape of the body. Some of these have like hands in it, so I really make sure that is being captured. And the other thing I also always like to capture, or notice at least, like make a mental block for it, is the direction of the eye, or like the direction of the face, if you will. So where the eyes are and how they line. And usually it's always in a straight line. You can draw a straight line between the corner of the eye to the other side of the corner of the eye, right? And if it's not a straight line, it's like sometimes it's a curvature, because if you consider the face as a ball or a balloon, you draw a line on the balloon to denote where the eyes are. When you turn that balloon in certain angles, you're gonna see that line curved, and that's exactly what you want to notice, right? So if I'm going with a pencil, I usually draw a line across the face. If I don't have a pencil and I'm going straight in with a brush pen, I still make a mental note of it, and I make sure I capture the position of the eyes correctly, because that is incredibly important. Another tip of mine for using brush pen is go from light to dark. Okay, I mean, there's nothing wrong from going dark directly, but again, it depends on the style of the drawing you're going for. If you just have one color, then it doesn't really matter. But if you are using multiple colors, I definitely recommend going from light to dark, because then it allows you to correct some of the previous mistakes with darker lines, and it also helps you build depth. And once you have applied the darkest shade, you can also go back with a lighter shade to create additional shading. But to me, that's kind of like the secondary step. So if I were to break it down into a few different steps, step one is to put down and figure out the boundaries of where everything is. And then I would go from like light to dark to complete this step. By the end of this step, you would have had a skeleton of the drawing, the face and the likeness of the person should be pretty evident by now, right? You got all the eyes, where the position of the nose, the mouth, the hair, all the broad strokes, at least all of that should be in, right? The boundaries of everything, the contours, the face, the direction, the facial expression. Is she mad? Is he happy? Whoever you're drawing, that should be pretty obvious by this point. And once you got that down, all laid down on paper, then I would say you go in with shading. And for shading, my personal preference is actually pick a mid-tone first. Pick a mid-tone and kind of block in a lot of the colors or the medium shade of the face. And once you're done with the mid-tone, again, like the face should make sense. And then because the mid-tones already cover up all the darker shades as well. So now you can go back in either with the same mid-tone color that you have picked to layer in, as I mentioned with the brush pen, the Faber-Castell set I got. Even if I use the same color, if I go back in, I can kind of like deepen that color, the saturation, and make that value transition a little bit stronger. But also if I'm if the lighting of the face is really harsh and creates like very obvious light and dark transition, I could go in with a darker shade to depict that block of color if a darker shade is needed. So again, so that's shading. I would say, again, going in with kind of like the step-by-step, that would be step number 2. Step number 2 is kind of build up a little bit of a value transition on the face. And lastly, it's kind of like the delicate details. You want to, in some areas of the face, to add a little bit more details to create interest. And I do this, it's different between my one drawing to the other, right? Some of the drawings, the detail could be in the hair, right? That could be where I want people to focus on. But the most obvious choice for portraits a lot of times are the eyes. There are the rare occasions where I put more emphasis on depicting the mouth, but most of the times it is the eyes, and it could be just adding a little bit more eyelashes, making sure the highlight in the eye has been captured, right? And I do have this white marker from the Faber-Castell set that I really like to use, because sometimes I don't just use it to create a highlight, but I actually use it to create some of the transition, expanding some of the highlight areas, or also I use it to correct some of my mistakes, right? Let's say I created the boundaries and now that I've added in some of the shadings, it looks a little bit off. Boundaries that I created before aren't exactly how I had envisioned it to be after I shaded it, added a mid-tone shading in. So this is the stage where I use a white marker to go back in and correct some of those mistakes and make a little bit sharper of an edge, because sharper edges also depict, adds in detail, that layer of detail and clarity to your drawings, and create that really interesting contrast, so that draws your eyes in. I started using these Faber-Castell Pitt artist pen brush about a few months back. It's not my first set of brush pen. Starting last year, I started using different kinds of brush pen. I really enjoy them. But before these Faber-Castell Pitt artist pen brushes, I've always just used them as kind of like the final way to finish a drawing. Started off with pencil sketches and then overlaying with a black brush pen to create portrait drawings in my sketchbook. And the reason I really enjoy using brush pen is just because it gives me a lot of control and variation of the lines, which I really enjoy. So let's talk about the Faber-Castell Pitt artist pen brushes, or brush pens. What I like about them, or this set that I got, is that the colors work really well together. It's got warm and cool grays, and you can kind of layer them together to create interesting effects as well. The lighter shades work really well when you easily build it up and make stronger and stronger shades. You can also create these hatches, cross-hatching effects. You're just using straight lines, which sometimes I enjoy doing. What I also like to do, use them for, is that I find you can layer the colors together to create other colors as well, as you can see in some of the drawings here. One thing I did notice that because these, I believe, are created to create these waterproof effect, once you put them down on paper and leave it for too long, they do dry up and you can't really lift up the paint on them anymore. However, if you put them down on a piece of paper with some kind of light wash of water, using water brush pen to prep the paper, you can't create gradient effect with them. Very similarly using watercolor paint. But again, if you wait for too long, this doesn't work. And I don't usually do this. I don't really have the patience for it, to be honest. The other point that I want to mention is that these artist pens don't really blend similarly as you can do with alcohol markers. So alcohol markers, it blends really easily, and you can kind of make these really interesting effects with alcohol markers. You can do some kind of blending with these as well, but to me it's more like layering. You're layering colors on top of one another, kind of like glass panels, different kinds of stained glass, if you will. So let's talk about why I continue using a brush pen. So I've been using them for a year now, drawing and sketching with them in Sketchbook. So to me, I really like them because it kind of feels like it's one pen to rule them all. It allows me to create different kinds of lines with just one pen. You can do like simple and delicate lines for hair and whatnot. You could also do, just flat shading, like a patch of colors, one area, when you lay down the pen flat on the surface. So I really like that. It's just, I'm really lazy. I don't like to switch out material when I'm really in the zone to create something, and these pens just gives me that control. I also really like how using like one continuous line with this pen, it gives me a lot of variations. So I don't have full control over the lines, right? And these pens kind of gives character to the drawings, to my lines. When I don't want to say I lose control of the lines, but if all the lines are wonky, it kind of creates this interesting effect to your drawings or interesting style. And of course, if uniformity is what you're looking for, I don't think it's going to be incredibly difficult to achieve with the brush pen, I find, unless you have a super steady hand. But also, uniformity is a really nice style as well. And there's many other tools that I would recommend, and there's nothing wrong with it. Sometimes I do like to create a really neat and uniform drawing for a portrait as well. I would say that that's not really my style. My style of drawing is I like fluidity, I like freedom, I like how sometimes the lines are a little bit out of control, and that messiness kind of, I think, gives character to the drawings. And yeah, in a nutshell, that's why I enjoy using brush pen. Below, I'll also walk you through some of the drawings I've done in the past, and I'll point out some of the flaws of them as well. So for example, on this particular drawing, you can see in this area it doesn't blend quite well or as nicely as I wanted to. And also with practice, you'll see that some colors do blend, or not blend, but like they layer a little bit more nicely compared to others. Some of the colors, they when you layer them together, it creates this like kind of muddy color, which I don't really like. And also I've noticed that some of the lighter shades, when you overwork it, it can create these patches, which is kind of unexpected, not in a nice way, unexpected in a bad way, I would say, because I don't really like how that looks. Hoping by now that I have inspired you to use them as well, and hopefully you've learned a few tips from this video, and that you are excited to draw in your sketchbook. Enjoy!